Good morning, Daniel Donaldson.
Good morning, Tom.
How are you?
If I was any better, there'd have to be two of me.
I can't imagine that, but
And,
I'll
and
take
there's
your
a
word.
lot of people who don't want to imagine that.
Well, I'll take your word for it. Tell me, sir, who are you?
Well, I'm talking to you, so I must be an author, and I am. And I am so enjoying that. But I'm also an inventor, and most of my career that preceded my current situation was in digital imaging products that I invented. So that was awesome. But more importantly, now I am an author and a parent and a grandparent and a spouse, sibling, teacher. And I'm just excited about being able to reach out and to use the ability to write something to extend my love of reading and writing and understanding and teaching the Bible to as many people as I can get to.
Of all those things you mentioned, which one is the most important to you?
I would say that in this stage of my life, being retired, I think the most important thing, the thing that I want to do is to show people, make a difference in how people can better understand and benefit from their study of the Bible. Because I know what it's done for me, and I know it can do the same for others.
Well, I will tell you, sir, that I have read your book.
Yeah, I was going to say, not everyone I talk to has, so that's awesome.
Well, I have read it, and I've never done this before, but I started reading it a second time.
Mm,
And you suggest in the book that I should journal what the Lord's teaching me, as I read.
that's
I
true.
didn't do that the first time.
Oh,
I do journal, but not
mm-hmm.
specifically about that, but I will this time. Okay.
I, awesome, awesome. Just it's so great to hear that. It obviously, it's one thing to read it once, but it's another thing to read it again. So
Right.
I've done that, of course, but
Okay.
not too many others. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. So, what I want to do is people know who you are and they know a little bit about what you do. Uh, you're going to be podcasting.
True.
You're you've got a website and you'll be blogging.
Mm-hmm. And Facebook also.
Okay. So now tell me where you're going.
It's an awesome journey that I am on now, and it's something that I've wanted to do since I went to college. I went to college to be a literary writer, and I wanted to be able to study the Bible and be able to write like C.S. Lewis. But I knew once I got there and read more of his stuff, I'm not C.S. Lewis. but it was my desire to be able to do it, and then the world, life, being married, having children got in the way of that. But I had an awesome career doing other things. I got to go all over the world. I got to invent, which is something I always wanted to do. I always dreamed of doing. When I was a child, I really dreamed of going places in airplanes. And I'll show you how old I am. We lived in the shadow of the Los Angeles International Airport in El Segundo, and when an airplane would go over, we would stop what we were doing in the classroom so we could run over to the window to look at the airplane going by. Now they try and figure out how to get noise abatement in place. But it was a big deal. And so I got to get in the big silver bird and fly all over the world and share my products with them. And that was awesome. I enjoyed it a great deal. But what I'm really wanting to do now is make myself available through whatever communication avenues are available to share with people what I've learned over 4 decades of revelation and understanding and being involved with knowing God from a perspective of being in a blood covenant with him.
You know, we live in a fascinating time. I know you traveled 1,000,000 miles in
Yes.
an airplane. I've traveled several 100,000, but I haven't reached that mark. But the thing is that having traveled around the world like you have, it's got to be pretty exciting now through the current methods we have of like what we're doing right now, having a video chat that you could now take your book, take your message, take yourself into all these different parts of the world that you've already been to, um, and never leave your room.
That's true. It is amazing that what we can do now with YouTube, and anybody can learn anything about anything if they want to by just getting on there. And we have so much opportunity. I could go physically to places like we used to, and maybe go to a church that has a couple of hundred people, and I would go there and spend the day sharing what I know, and maybe 20 or 30 of them could buy the book, and they would benefit greatly, I do believe. But I could also be putting a video out there that hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe thousands, could see, and be so much more productive, so much beneficial, because you can see it, you can hear it, we can share it, and it's a great thing that we never would have imagined years ago that we could do this kind of thing.
You know, it seems like everything that we read in the comic books, Dick Tracy had the wrist radio, and
Yeah.
and you know, all these things, they've somehow sparked the imagination. But of course, we know everything comes from God. Everything started with an idea in somebody's mind, and then they
Yes.
kind of like your invention.
And when I invented my product, it involved microfilm, and I had the idea of putting that microfilm in a way that you could see it on your computer, instead of having to put it on those nasty old machines with light shining through a window, reflecting off a mirror onto glass, and then trying to read that. To actually have a camera grabbing that massive micro image, a little image that's smaller than a square inch, and yet filling your screen of your PC with it, so that you could read it in a live video feed. Well, when I did that, nothing existed that would make it possible. The computers just didn't have the ability. And now we look back and we're doing it.
You know, that amazes me because I work a lot with people regarding their vision, and so many people don't have a vision, or it scares them so much that they freeze in their tracks. And Miles Monroe has been a mentor of mine. He died about 3 years ago in a plane
Mm.
accident, but I got to meet him in Tulsa. But he used to tell everybody that the richest place in the world is a graveyard, because so many ideas have died there
Oh,
that uh, that who knows. But these ideas come from God.
and that's real. I have changed what I'm putting my attention towards, but it's really the same thing. When I set out to do what I did with my invention, at the time, no one had done that, and it was historic. But what I wanted to do was make a difference, because I appreciated being in the business of microfilm. I appreciated it, but nobody liked it. I had to give them a way to like the product and to use it and make it more accessible and usable to people. And I've found that the other thing that I really care about is what's in the Bible. And so now I can focus on making the difference in how people can better understand and benefit from their study of the Bible. And that's just as valuable of a thing. In fact, I think more valuable than anything I did, as great as it was for people reading microfilm. This changes lives, and it can really do something if you have the ability to communicate it. And so whatever means I can do that with, I've made sure that the book is available in a hardcover, a paperback, a Amazon Kindle, any way you want to get those words in front of your eyes. I want it to be available to you.
And that's the exciting thing, because Matthew 24:14 says that the gospel is going to go into all the world, and then the end will come.
Yes.
And I couldn't get my head around that for years, how that was going to happen. I mean, I knew there was Wycliffe Bible translators and others, but the thing is that I don't even know how many languages there are in the world. I mean, there's countries now that weren't around when I was going to school, and it's just crazy. And but now we have the ability to get the gospel into every nation. And so all the tools that you're thinking of using are going to fit in someplace.
Right.
And then COVID has driven everybody online, even for school and stuff. And so I don't know. I just see the Lord setting it all up, for you to take your book and just go with it.
Yeah, when I first took my invention to Australia, it was a fabulous thing for me, and I really did enjoy getting to see it. It is an awesome country. I love it. But it would take me 22 hours to get there on an airplane. And then I'm there for a week, and I see as many people as I can in 4 or 5 cities, and then I leave, and we're done. And I've only, and then it takes another 22 hours to get home again. But what if I can, put my book in a method that can be over there instantly, and as many people as would care to can download it and read it and benefit from it without leaving home. It's quite an awesome thing.
Well, I intend to put this interview on LinkedIn because I have several thousand connections there. But what I have been doing recently is reaching out to pastors in places like South Africa, Nigeria, and these people are crying for Christian literature and things that can help them train their pastors and get the word into these small communities. And I mean, there's places over there that don't even have electricity yet, but yet they can take a laptop with them, hook up to a satellite, and share the gospel with them. So I'm sure these things excite you. What are your plans?
People may wonder, well, do we really need another book? There are a million out there now. What's significant or beneficial or specific that you think is so important that everyone needs to hear it? And by the way, I didn't hear it in college. I mean, I went to a Christian college, and we took a history of the Bible. We took the Old Testament survey, the New Testament survey. We went into all kinds of things that are part of Christianity, but we never talked about blood covenant. And they reserved that for senior, people going into a doctorate in theology. Well, it is a theological thing that's very important, but it doesn't have to be, brain surgery. It's something I think it's so fundamental that it needs to be what you understand before you take Bible 101, because the thing that you can understand leads to such a wonderful change in your whole mind and your relationship with God and how you look at things and how you can enjoy covenant faith, covenant grace, covenant favor. and know that this is what the gospel is actually teaching. So I'll be on every place I can go. Everyone will let me do an interview. I'll be on podcasts. Anybody that wants to hear me, I'll be telling them. Daniel J. Donaldson is telling you about the mystery of the blood covenant, and that the best thing that could happen is that it no longer be a mystery, that you can understand why it's important, what it does, how it changes your perspective on everything literally in the Bible.
Daniel, I'll tell you this. I've been a Christian since December 13th, 1970. I'm 79 years old. I've heard a lot of messages. I've been a lay preacher. I've studied the Bible in, Greek, Hebrew. I do word studies, everything I can to get the meat out of the Bible. But I never, ever really understood the blood covenant. And I mean, I know we're in the new covenant, and that's what we're talking about. But the thing is, why did Jesus Christ shed his blood on Calvary? That's the thing. We know he did, and we
Yes.
know it covers our sins, but why? What was the reason that was so important? And it's
Yes.
fascinating.
And major, well-meaning, we would call them biblically accurate institutions of higher learning, and you name them. They don't know. They
Yeah,
know that it happened, but they don't know why, and they'd say it's just a mystery. And as long as we just believe it with blind faith, it doesn't really matter why. We don't understand why his dying on a cross is different than anyone else doing it, or why his dying on a cross would do anything to me when I wasn't even alive when he did it. I mean, how does it affect me, and why is that important? We just don't know. Well, we do know. We can know. We have to know. Because blind faith will only help you really is in the kiddie pool of life. You can't go through all the knowledge and the wisdom and the power and the noise that's out there with blind faith. It's not going to sustain you. You need to know why it matters and what it accomplished. And it is life transforming when you get there.
it is. And I can't even tell you how I'm being transformed from it. If somebody gave me a test and said, okay, explain this, I'm not sure I can, but I know that I've changed. My perception has changed. My understanding has changed. And the peace of mind that I have is just tremendous.
That's it. Just it's so awesome to hear you say that, because that's what happened to me, and that's what I want to convey. And I believe that the Holy Spirit that helped me write it is the reason that it's going to answer the questions that somebody has, that I don't even realize those are the questions that they have, but it's going to minister. They're going to hear what they need to hear. And someone's going to say one chapter was more important than another to them, but it's all in there, and it can all be helpful if you take a look at it.
Yeah, I remember when I read the last, I didn't realize I was reading the last page of it. I was reading it on my Kindle. And then when I went to the next page, that was it. And I had a letdown feeling. I thought, man, I want to read more.
Well,
So,
then my chief editor helped me properly, because he said you got to leave them wanting more. You can't exhaust them. You just have to get as much out there as will get them sunk into it, but don't try and do everything. So
well, he gave you a good word. You told me a story earlier
mm,
about a man coming to America on a ship.
yes,
Would you
this
tell that story? Because
I,
that fits
I
exactly.
I would love to, because it absolutely made so much sense to me, and it's accurate right from the standpoint of what we talk about when we say blood covenant. It's an agreement, and you sign it, and somebody else signs it, and that agreement is there, just like any other agreement you make. And there's a fellow that the story goes that the fellow wanted to come to America. He knew America was so much more of a place to go that he would be able to make his life beneficial, and it would, even if it took everything he had to get there, it was worth it. And so he did sell everything he had, which wasn't much, but he was able to get a third-class passage on a steamship that would take him in several weeks' time to America. And he packed his bag, and he got cheese and bread and water so that he could make the passage. He didn't have anything left over to buy meals on the ship. He just was trying to get across, and he didn't care because he knew where he was going was such a good place. It was worth the pain and the suffering that he went through. And he just figured, you know, I've got to do a certain amount of pain and suffering to get there. And so he's okay with it. And so he stays to himself. He eats in his little cabin. And finally, near the end of the passage, one of the people with the ship says, you know, I know you're on the boat with us. I know you're doing this with us, but is there anything we've done to offend you? Well, what? No, I'm so glad to be able to get there, and we're almost there now. Thank you for letting me come. But why are you concerned about making me disappointed? He says, well, I've noticed that you've never taken advantage of the things that we have here for you, the meals that we provide every day. You're just not dining with us in the dining room. And he said, well, I have to admit, sir, I just don't have the money. It took all I could just to get the ticket that got me here. And he looked at him, and the fellow working on the boat said, oh, sir, didn't you know? Don't you know what's in the ticket that you bought? It includes all the meals. It includes all the meals. They're there for you to take while you're traveling. It's part of what's yours when you bought the ticket. and that is so much like you could read the Bible, you could get in the church, you could believe that you're getting saved, and it may be a lot of pain and effort and suffering along the way, but at least, you know, someday you'll get to heaven. But God wanted us to enjoy the journey on the way. He wouldn't, or else he would not have said, I have come that you have joy more abundantly. You know, there will be challenges. Oh, Lord, there are challenges. But there is joy in the journey, and God will overcome. And there is, you know, a happiness that you can get from experiencing the presence and the power of God. And it's available. It's in the ticket. It's part of your program. We just have to know it.
Well, that's the thing. Daniel, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, Tom. I tell you, it was good to know you from LinkedIn as a professional. I could tell that you knew what you were doing as a literary, you know, marketer, and so I had respect for you. But now I've just grown to appreciate you so much more as we've been able to spend this time together. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thank you for those kind words.